binomial radical expressions in Algebra 2. So the first thing we're going to talk about in this section is adding and subtracting our radicals. And something you want to remember is that you need the same expression underneath that square root sign or the cube root sign. It has to be the same. That's also called the radicand. That's what we call the number or the expression underneath our root. Before you can add and subtract, you also need to make sure that you have the same type of radical, so the same type of root. In this case, we're doing square roots for both. Now, the thing that's different with number 1 is your radicand, or the number underneath. We have 8 and we have 18. So before I can add and subtract, I need to break these down. 8 is broken down to 2 times 4, and then 4 is broken down to 2 times 2. Since it's a square root, I need 2 of the same, so there's a group of 2's. That 2 comes to the outside, and I'm left with the square root of 2 on the inside, because remember that 4 broke down. Then I'm going to carry down my plus sign, and I also need to break down 18. Well, 18 can break down to 2 times 9, and then 9 can break down to 3 times 3. So there's my group of the same number, 3. So 3 goes to the outside, and I'm left with the square root of 2. So now, since my radicals, my roots, they are the same, square root of 2 and the square root of 2, all that's left for me to do is to add the outside numbers. So I want to take 2 plus 3, which gives me 5, and then you still have your square root of 2. Because remember, that square root sign protects that 2, so we can't change it. So you can only change things that are on the outside. And that is your answer for number 1. Now looking at number 2, so I have a cube root and a cube root, so I'm good. But my radicand, that number underneath that root sign, is different. So I have to break things down again. So 27 I'm going to break down to 3 times 9, and then 9 I'm going to break down to 3 times 3. Now since this is a cube root, I need 3 of the same, which I have. And I also have 5 x's underneath, so I'm going to draw out 5 x's. And I can make one group of x's. So remember, whatever I circled is going outside of my root sign. So I have a group of 3's and a group of x's. And so inside the cube root, that 9 I broke down to 3 and 3, so I don't have any numbers, but I am left with these 2 x's. And if we multiply them, we get x squared. I'm going to carry down my subtraction sign. And now I need to break down 8x to the 5th. So 8 can be broken down to 2 and 4. 4 is broken down to 2 and 2. There's my group of 2's. Then I also have 5 x's. I drew out 5 x's, and I can make one group. So on the outside here, I have 2x, and I'm left with the cube root of x squared from these 2 x's that weren't circled. So now, since I have the same radicals, I have the cube root of x squared and the cube root of x squared, all that's left is to subtract the outside. So I have 3x minus 2x, which just leaves me with 1x and the cube root of x squared. And that's my final answer. So if you want to try number 3 on your own, you can. If you want to keep watching, I'm going to work this one out. Okay, so with number 3, I have square root and square root. Then I have x to the 4th. Well, that's the same, but my y to the 3rd and y to the 5th are different. So I'm going to break this down. I've got x to the 4th is 4x's. And since it's a square root, I can take both. So that becomes x squared on the outside. And I also have 3y's. So a y can come to the outside as well. And then I'm left with the square root of y. Carry down my plus sign. Again, I've got 4x's. So I can make 2 groups. So x squared is on the outside. And I've got 5y's. Here I can make 2 groups, so y squared is on the outside, and I'm left with the square root of y. So I have square root of y and square root of y. So now I just need to add the outside. So I have x squared y plus x squared y squared. Well, that's not the same. These are not the same on the outside. They are not like terms, so I can't combine them. So I'm actually just left with x squared y, square root of y, plus x squared y squared, square root of y. So you can only combine them if they are like terms on the outside. Okay, the second part of this is we're dealing with multiplying radical expressions. And we should remember the term FOIL from Algebra 1. So what this means is I need to take my first term, in this case it's 4, and distribute it to both terms in the second expression. So 4 times 9 is 36, and then 4 times the negative square root of 5 is negative 4 square root of 5. Then I need to take the square root of 5 and distribute it. So square root of 5 times 9 is 9 square root of 5. And then I have the square root of 5 times the negative square root of 5. So anytime we're doing a positive times a negative, we know we're going to get a negative. And since it's square root times square root, we think about when we learned multiplying and dividing. We're going to take 5 times 5 and get the square root of 25. Now I'm going to simplify it again. So I still have 36 minus 4 square root of 5 plus 9 square root of 5 minus 5, because the square root of 25 just equals 5. And remember that shortcut. Anytime you do a square root times a square root, that square root sign goes away, and you are just left with the number underneath. Now, the last, well, second to last thing we need to do is we have to still combine our like terms. So I have 36 minus 5, which gives me 31. And then I also have negative 4 square root of 5 plus 9 square root of 5. Because remember, my square root of 5 and square root of 5 mean they are the same. I can add them. So negative 4 plus 9 will give me a positive 5 square root of 5. And that's my answer. Now the other way these are written, you'll see in number 2, where we have parentheses 3 minus the square root of 2 squared. Remember, that squared means that there are 2 of them. So that is like saying 3 minus the square root of 2 times 3 minus the square root of 2. Now we just go back to foiling. So I'm going to take this 3, distribute it to the other 3, and get 9. And then 3 times the negative square root of 2 gives me negative 3 square root of 2. Now I'm going to take this negative square root of 2, distribute it to a 3, again gives me negative 3 square root of 2, and then the negative square root of 2 times the negative square root of 2. Well, a negative times a negative is a positive, and remember square root of 2 times square root of 2, the square root sign goes away, so I'm just left with the number 2. And then I combine my like terms. So I have 9 plus 2, which is 11. And then negative 3 square root of 2 minus 3 square root of 2 is negative 6 square root of 2. And that is my final answer. So if you have issues, make sure you come see me at Bulldog Block or check in and see when I'm staying after school, and I'm happy to walk you through it.